Hello again, gamers and gamettes, and welcome back to Not So Hardcore Gaming. I'm Jeremy, and today's episode we're going to talk about Titanfall 2. Now, obviously, as I say with every game I've played so far, I love this game. I find when I'm talking about games, I actually don't usually have really anything negative to say about them, and if I do, it's rather minor. And I think it should be fairly simple to explain why. I just don't play games that I don't enjoy. So obviously, like, a lot of my reviews will be good simply because otherwise I wouldn't really talk about the game. But yeah, that's just more of a info tidbit, I guess. But yeah, so today, as I said, we're talking about Titanfall 2, and I am on my own again. So I hope that you will enjoy the episode, and without further ado, we shall begin. Okay, so I'll talk about the audio and visuals of this game again. The graphics I found really quite good. I genuinely have nothing bad to say about them again. There's a lot of different arenas for your battles. And I'm talking about the story mode here because I actually haven't played multiplayer. But there are different stages of the game, all in a completely new area. And each area looks absolutely beautiful. None of them look even remotely similar, which I find is really good for the game because you see a bit of everything, and having that variety makes the game more exciting because you have new things to discover. There's collectibles of helmets which you can get throughout the levels, any amount, and it gives you more reason to go and explore the rest of the level, and you get to see every part of each level, and all of it just looks awesome. You've got the natural canyons there, where there's cliffs and there's a waterfall, and it obviously you can see things in the distance and you can see up close, and everything just looks exactly how you would expect it to be in real life. The water flows really well. The cliffs are jagged and none of them are smooth to really any degree, so they look very natural. And then, of course, you have the more machine arenas. So you've got one where there's this massive factory which is assembling rooms, and it's just all machinery, and everything moves smoothly, and it just fits very well with what you would expect that to be, especially because this is a game in the future. The robotic parts of it are very big and all move exactly the same way, so it looks how you would expect a factory like that to run. So yeah, it fits exactly how you would expect each level to be made, and all of them just look so unique that you enjoy playing it the whole way through. You're wanting to try out new things, and it becomes very, very fun. And then, of course, the audio. There's a lot of voice acting, of course. There's not a major amount of characters, but each are unique. So you've got your main character, and obviously you have certain dialogue options, which I like, but that is something else for later. And the voice actors, again, fit exactly how they look. Yours, because you don't know the look of your character, you can't really say he looks how you would expect him to look because you don't know how he looks. Then you've got BB-8, I think. No, that's the wrong name. One moment. Not BB-8, it's BT. My apologies. So BT is your normal robot that you wouldn't see. The mechanical way of talking, doesn't understand human expression, so sarcasm means nothing to him. That type of thing, which is extremely charming, and I'll go into that more for when we're talking about the characters themselves. But he sounds really well done as an AI. Then your enemies, you've got the big, rough-looking guy, has the gruff voice and definite anger issues, that style of thing. The voice acting just fits exactly how you would expect each character to sound like, and that always needs appreciation. Then of course, obviously, the gun sounds. There are a lot of weapons in this game, and all of them sound unique. All of them obviously affect gameplay, but we're just talking about the audios and visuals of them. The guns look really impressive, and then when you go to the Titan, it has, I think, 8 to 10 different loadouts, all of which use a completely different style of weapons systems, and all of them just sound very powerful and completely different. Again, like I know I'm saying that a lot, but just each of them sounds like raw power that you would expect to hear for a machine that is called Titan. You gotta love it. I've mentioned the weapons, so I'll move on to talking about that as a smooth transition. There's 2 different styles of combat you can have for this game. You can have running around yourself, separate from BT, where you've got shotguns, assault rifles, pistols, and even snipers, and you can change weapons at regular intervals. You can pick weapons up from enemies you've killed, and it is very smooth in that style of combat. You can even prepare loadouts to begin with, and one thing which I do love about the battles is when you're outside of BT and you're using your own weapons, you can look and he's still fighting with you. Like, he will go and target other enemies, he'll target other Titans, and so it's like you've got just a second player helping you out, and I find that to be really fun and fits quite well, and it's just impressive to look at as well. When you're battling someone else, you can look back and you can see your Titan just ripping them apart. It's great. But so the weapons themselves, that they all are very well designed, and again, it's having all the different styles of weapons as you do in any gun game. It means you can play the game many different times and play it differently each time, and I always take time to appreciate that, because a game is really good if you find yourself playing it repeatedly. Now, this game I have only played twice, as I only got it again recently, but it is one I can definitely see myself playing again in the near future, simply because, again, the characters are charming, the combat is great, there's many different ways you can approach each battle, there's collectibles to find. It's just something that I can find myself wanting to play again at a later point. But as we're supposed to be talking about the weapons here, I'll move on to more the Titan combat. Now, I think one thing that you find quite fun about games is when you're inside this big machine and you're just taking apart the little enemies that you'd have trouble. You've got that in this game, that if you just want to get through a level quickly, you can just take all the enemies down in no time just by simply jumping in BT. And as well, the BT has several different loadouts. I tend to prefer the first loadout because it's quick fire, you can reflect projectiles at your enemies, and you've got rocket launchers as well. And so that is my main loadout. but you've got other ones that you can shoot big arcs of electricity. I think with one of them you can use similar sort of stars as to how you have shotguns and assault rifles on the normal one. You have a similar sort of thing for BT, so you can still have the same sort of combat, just on a larger scale. And the thing is, you find those weapons as you go through the game. So through the first level you can find one loadout and then you use it, and it just slowly expands. And I think that is a good way of doing it, because as you go further into the game there are more ways to approach it. And then so you can start the game again and you can go and do things just slightly differently, and then you can unlock those options more and more as you go through. And it makes it fun to play, that you unlock a new one and you get to experience this really powerful new weapon just by simply pressing a button. And that's great. And the loadouts are really fun to try. So honestly, I cannot love that enough, basically. So I've talked about the combat quite a bit, as I've mentioned the different styles of weapons. So that is, I think, a core part of the gameplay already discussed. But obviously the combat is not the only thing in the game. While obviously it is classified as a combat game, you have free running, so you can go and just run around the map and have a wow of a time. You can go into other modes to just enjoy yourself running around for a bit. And at the start of the game it gives you a gauntlet that you can go and play. And when I actually started the game again, I spent about 2 hours just playing that gauntlet, which is a 30-40 second thing depending on how you play it. And a big part of it is just completing it as quickly as you can. And I just kept on playing that for ages, and before I'd realised, several hours had passed. And I think that's important to recognise, is even though it is a combat game, just going and looking at the other parts of the map, going and enjoying wall running, which is one of my favourite gameplay mechanics. It just seems awesome to me that you can run along a wall. Having that in it is a nice little breaker between the combat, and it adds a lot to the gameplay for me personally. And then of course, like, when you combine wall running and shooting at the same time, it just feels awesome. You feel like some sort of ballistic ninja, and it will always be one of my favourite things to do in any game, and this game just does it particularly well. So that deserves plenty of appreciation from me. I think that's pretty much everything about the gameplay already covered, and I am repeating myself plenty enough already, so I will try not to do too much more. So I want to talk about the characters. Now, your personal character is thrown way out of his depth right at the start of the story, where he has to take over piloting BT. And obviously you can choose certain options, like dialogue options, but the bits you can't choose show that your character he's willing to do anything, really. He's very stressing the importance of his mission. He doesn't care how he has to accomplish it, but he also seems to just have fun with it. And seeing his relationship with BT growing very quickly is very sweet to me, because it shows that they form a good kinship very quickly. As they link up so that you can actually pilot it, you have to link with them, and watching them growing closer with that link is a really beautiful thing. And then you find that they're very loyal towards each other throughout the whole game, and it just warms my heart. It does. And then, of course, just BT himself. Oh, I love BT. Again, he's your normal sort of robot AI. He is very matter of fact. He's very frank. He just basically he doesn't understand tact, really. And watching the way that he responds to certain jokes you make with him, I just can't imagine not laughing at that. Obviously, I think every form of media that exists plays off this stereotype that, the robots don't understand really very much about humans at all. And it is just always entertaining no matter where you watch it from. And this is just a delightful blend of seriousness with just utter cluelessness, which can make you laugh or just warm your heart throughout the game. It really is just beautiful to watch. Then those are really the two main characters that you come across. Obviously, you have the bad guys who don't tend to be in it for long. Like you hear one person and know that he's hunting you down, you defeat him, another person comes in. So you don't really get to see much of the bad guys, which I think is not particularly a good thing. So, if you know more about your enemy, it adds a lot more intrigue to them. I think if you had any other information about them, it could draw you in a lot more, but you just don't. That is one of the only critiques I have about it, is it would have been good to have some sort of backstory on the enemies. It would, I think, give you more reason to go and consider them just the bad guys. Obviously they don't have morals, they've killed many other people, but there's something missing. But yeah, I think there's still, when you complete the game, there's still one of them has survived, and it sets it up for game 3, which all I know is if and when Titanfall 3 comes out, I am going to play it as fast as possible. But yeah, so it sets it up for the next game, and that's all the depth you really get when it comes to the bad guys. You also don't spend very long with the other armed forces that you are a part of. Your core just isn't around for most of the game, and they only come in towards the end when you have the really cinematic battles, which obviously I loved them. Having a full-on battle going around you where there's your teams versus a massive group of others, big spaceships battling each other. Cinematically, it's beautiful, and that's one thing you have to have when it comes to combat, is a combat game has to have that big, impressive stuff, and this definitely brings that in. And obviously, even when you're on one of the battleships, and then you get launched onto another one, you feel like you're flying. Oh, it's beautiful. So yeah, that's again me going off on a tangent, but here we are. The story itself is the final thing I'll talk about, really. The story isn't very long, and it is a little bit of a shame because it just means there's less to play. But it still has an opening which makes sense and a logical conclusion. So it's not that it was rushed, it's just there wasn't really anywhere else to go with the story. I just found it was a little shame that you couldn't continue any further. But there's nothing really to complain about with the story. It ends obviously with, as I said, it leaves the possibility for a future game, and it. I'm not. I don't want to spoil too much because I know we all hate spoilers. Even though this is a years old game, I would hate it if someone spoiled it for me. So I'm not going to say too much about it, but it is definitely, it brings up a couple emotions for you, and it does it the right way. Throughout the whole story, you just find yourself drawn into the characters. You want to know more about them. You want to spend time with them. You want to really get to know them, and that I think is essential to any game, any movie, any book, anything. You need to have some sort of connection with the characters. That I obviously am not particularly good with words, but yeah, the story, the characters, it really draws you in, and it keeps you interested right from the start to the end. And I really look forward to the next game. I know that I will be playing Titanfall 2 again. I think Titanfall 1, when I got it, it didn't have a story, so I never played that. But having Titanfall 2, and again, that's a topic, we're talking about a story. Yeah, I have loved it. It's done next to nothing wrong. I think I've said just about everything I can for this episode. I know that I tend to ramble quite a bit, and so I wanted to just quickly address that now that we're at the end of the episode. I don't actually have a script when I film any of these episodes, and part of that reason is, to me, it feels more genuine doing it this way. So I know that sometimes I will waffle on about random stuff for a good 2 minutes, or there will be plenty of ums and ahs, but I want to discuss these games in my own manner because then it feels more genuine to me. You know, I feel like I'm actually talking how I would if I were having a conversation with you in person right now. You know, so if you do listen, I hope that doesn't take away from it, but I just want to be genuine about these things. And when I really have a lot of praise to say, I tend to overdo it. So yeah, if you're here, I do appreciate it. I'm really enjoying making this podcast, and it's me sharing a love for the games that I play because it's one of the few things I can do. You know, that there's been quite a bit that has happened which I can't really do much physical activity. Basically, I'm missing a leg and I have a very bad back, so physical activity isn't really my strong suit, and because of that I've gravitated towards games, and that's why I started this podcast, is to share my love for that. And that's the whole reason I do this. So yeah, so just thank you for listening to me, thank you for returning, and I really hope to see you again next time. And yeah, that's everything I have to say. So this is Not So Hardcore Gaming. I'm Jeremy, signing off.